Well, flying those planes ain't as great as it sounds. I have a story that's sure to astound. There's something quite evil that happens out there, and all of the people are so unaware. You see, I was ordered to fly and to spew a hazy white cocktail, a chemical brew. Have you ever wondered why skies are so grey? Gone are the blue skies from back in the day. Look up to the sky and ask your government why they're spraying their chemicals over your head. It's almost as though they want everyone dead. Look up, look up, look up. Look up to the sky above. The air that you breathe has been compromised. Please look up, look up, look up.
My name is Kristen Megan, and for 23 years, I have worked as a senior industrial hygienist, which is an occupational environmental health and safety professional. And I spent 9 years on active duty working in bioenvironmental engineering in the Air Force. I have to engineer out so many hazards that involve chemicals, heavy metals from an inhalation, ingestion, and contact hazard. After watching a documentary and hearing about chemtrails, I thought that was the most ridiculous thing ever, because I work in a field where I have to protect community and environmental health. And I knew the health impacts if what was claimed to be was actually being dispersed on our vegetation, and we were inhaling it and being displaced on our food. So in my journey to try to debunk this, that is when my whole world changed.
I raised my right hand and I took an oath to the Constitution to hopefully do something meaningful with my life. 19 years old, unsure what I wanted to do. So I enlisted in the U.S. Air Force. I want to say around 2006, I started kind of opening my eyes to how the military wasn't really what I thought it was. And people approached me knowing what I did for a living and said, "Have you ever heard of chemtrails?" Well, I hadn't. I went online and I looked at chemtrails. I saw a lot of, debunking, a lot of sites that were just kind of calling it a conspiracy theory. And I thought, well, geez, this is what I do for a living. Preventive health, making sure that people are not getting sick, especially in the workplace, and by things that we're doing that can affect, human health and the environment. I didn't debunk it. It literally changed my life. It's not easy standing here and telling my story. One day I was going through that computer system, which if you want to look it up, it's called an Air Force Form 3952. It is the approval of hazardous materials. I was finding tons and tons of large quantities of aluminum, barium, strontium in the forms of oxides and sulfates. So I asked the question, what is this being used for? I never got an answer, so I didn't approve it. And it sat there. And then the heat came down. Why are you behind on your 3952s? Only a select few of us did that. So I started asking questions. And at that point, my demonization began. I made my rank. I was decorated. I was a non-commissioned officer of the quarter. I won lots of awards. I had no reason for anyone to attempt to demonize me. When I started asking the question again under a new commander, I never in my life thought I would have somebody look me in the face and tell me, "I am questioning you. Is there something wrong with you? You've been looking really depressed lately. I can put you under mental evaluation for up to 120 days. Who would take care of your daughter?" Because I was divorced at the time. As soon as I heard that, I knew. It validated everything I ever thought. And I thought, I've spent 9 years of my life trying to protect human health, and here we are violating law after law after law. Just sitting here, instead of protecting the people, we are poisoning the people. And I've never got up so much courage from that fear of being thrown in a cage, because when you're in the military, folks, you're a number. You are a number, and every aspect of your life is controlled. I was so lucky that my enlistment was coming up and I was supposed to re-enlist. I ran and did not look back. And I have been blowing the whistle and shouting ever since. And I left October 27th, 2010.
Not only is it happening, but the very profession I was attached to inside of the Air Force was the one that was part of the group approving the chemicals. I spoke on this issue for about 15, 16 years now. My story has stayed the same. My story is a part of a bigger story, a piece of the puzzle. But I tell you, what is happening lately, and what has happened over the years, more people can't deny what they're seeing.
I came here to California in 1981, and the first thing I said is, holy cow, your jets sure last a long time up here, don't they? And that was the kickoff of chemtrails. I said, whoa, I wonder what's going on here in Mount Shasta. And I started taking some samples.
Greetings, gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm a retired scientist, bachelor's, cum laude in forestry, master's in zoology, 35 years, USDA scientist, Soil Conservation Service, U.S. Forest Service, civil service equivalents in range, wildlife, fisheries, geology, agriculture, soils, ornithology, entomology, botany, mycology, hydrology. Am I qualified to speak? Just letting you know it. Okay, you want some figures? Okay, latest water test. Tested the rain. 13,100 micrograms per liter of aluminum in the rain in 2013. Normally, it should be 0. So 13,100 is pretty damn much, folks. It used to be 0, then it was 100s in the 2000s, and then since 2010, it's into the 1000s and the latest 13,100. In the snow on Mount Shasta, pristine Mount Shasta, 61,000 micrograms per liter, 4 times the amount that is found in the soil up there. Where in the hell is this stuff coming from if it's not coming from the soil? You know, these tests are international in scope. We're seeing this all over the world, guys.
Frankly, I was a bit scared. The limit on aluminum, I think, was 50, and I was getting 64,000. There's something going on that probably isn't good for me. Now, it wasn't always that, but it went up and down wildly. Sometimes it would, well, there's some chemtrails over there in the east. They'll blow over us shortly. Set out the jar and catch some of that rain. It was only 100 or a couple hundred. And every now and then you'd get one that was almost clean. But then just lately, everything's got aluminum. Everything does.
Aluminum blocks essential nutrients. I am unable in my garden to restore normal pH, and that's because nanoparticles are now in the circulatory systems of both plants and humans. So welcome, fellow guinea pigs.
I was beat up 3 times. 2 by Forest Service employees, 1 by a rancher, saying, you mind your own business, whackety whack, whack, whack. Talking about aluminum in the skies, talking about pollution. You get death threats, they figure, you're interfering with my livelihood. You interfere with my money making. You're a threat.
When the threats started coming, I realized I needed to leave. And again, I had no plan. I had no job. I was very scared, and I came out in a time that I knew, regardless of what happened to me, I was going to be on the right side of history. It's one of the scariest moments as a parent to think somebody will just lie and say that you're suicidal or that, your work performance has declined. And I just knew if I was going to have any of the rights that I had fought for other people, I needed to leave my combat boots on my doorstep. It was a time when many people still didn't believe it. I was demonized heavily. I was granted whistleblower status. I hired an attorney. The very hazards that I'm trying to eliminate out of the workplace were now just dispersing for everyone to ingest, inhale, and land again on their vegetation.
Since I've left mainstream medicine and really looked at what data is out there to inform us on what is really causing disease, I definitely learned that it's not germs, I don't think it's genes either. And what I do see is massive evidence that we are exposed to an immense chemical soup of man-made poisons that never existed in nature, our bodies are unfamiliar with, and it disrupts our natural biology. And these come from so many different sources. But there's one source of this exposure that you really are impotent to do anything about it. And it is the geoengineering spray that's coming down from our skies virtually every day. With aluminum, for example, if it is inhaled, we know that it does get inside the body. And the same thing is true with strontium. So we may not know the toxicity based on inhalation, but we could probably assume that it is pretty similar to other roots because it does go into the same places in your body.
When I learned that we are being poisoned, it's emotional every time I go outside. You know what I mean? It's to the point where I've become more of a recluse, which is not me, because I know I don't want to go out and breathe it. When I see them spraying, it just makes me not want to go out. I've overcome it because I've gone through a journey, but most people would be depressed sitting inside all day. Like if they knew that and then they were scared to go outside, they're gonna get more depressed inside.
I want to go out on a sunny day and enjoy time with my family and not have overcast and then have everybody coughing and sick because all this crap is just falling down. It's in our soil, it's in our water. We inhale it because what goes up must come down.
Is it hard metal? Is it shards of metal? Is it in nanoparticulate? Is it oxides? Different metal, if it's inhaled, it can cause respiratory issues. If it's ingested, it can cause GI issues. But either way, it affects neurodevelopment and it is a hazard to your brain and it breaks the blood-brain barrier. This is why a lot of people decide not to vaccinate because of the aluminum and the adjuvants and preservatives. So if people can believe that, there's some people that believe that contaminant but don't believe this. So you kind of, again, have to look at that synergistic toxicity. But when you're dealing with strontium, aluminum, and barium, all can be naturally occurring in Earth, but just like fluoride, there are different forms and different uses. So all of these metals are attacking the same target organs. It's targeting your food, your water, and it's coming in multiple different ways.
I actually feel down. I mean, most people do, with days and days of just thick, nasty haze and lines. It's depressing. I'm sick of it. And I cannot control what is happening in the sky above me. I'm not having that. I can control what I put into my mouth. I can control what I feed to my child. I can control how I grow my food and if I want to spray pesticides or not. But I cannot control the experiments over my head that remain unchecked, untested. You know, nobody knows what the cumulative impacts of the aluminum, the copper, the zinc, barium, strontium, titanium is doing to our wildlife, our soil, our plants, and what it means to inhale it.
We have a lot of other data on aluminum toxicity, and most people probably heard of it in the context of neurodegenerative disease like dementia, Alzheimer's, and things like that. And there is considerable evidence of neurotoxicity from aluminum. So that could include neurobehavioral problems where someone has, different behavior, like if you could think of some of the childhood neurodevelopmental disorders like autism, for example, where there's markedly different behavior, as well as some neurodegenerative diseases that you would find in adults like multiple sclerosis, certain types of dementias known as frontotemporal dementia like Pick's disease, and many others that can have behavioral problems. And there's a host of mechanisms whereby aluminum and other heavy metals are toxic, one of them being that they generally are oxidants, so they cause oxidative damage or lipid peroxidation, where the fats in our body, which are really important in the nervous system because maybe 80–90% of the solid mass of our nervous system is fat. And so if we oxidize that fat and its function is disrupted, obviously that's going to cause issues with our health.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield came out with, in 2020, a paper that said early onset dementia and Alzheimer's on the rise for ages 30s and 40s. Well, no wonder. Not only is aluminum now the go-to in all of the jabby-hoos, now it's in the sky. Yeah, but think about it. Inhaling aluminum apparently makes it more bioavailable than if you were to eat it or drink it.
Our bodies absorb the aluminum, the barium, these heavy metals that don't get processed by the liver. You know, the liver can't process these heavy metals, so what do? They go straight to the brain. And now we wonder why there's, you know, an increase in dementia over the last 30 years. Alzheimer's, it's heavy metals making people lose their minds.
We can look up and we can see it. We can measure the effect on the environment. We can observe the health of the forest and how it may respond to that. But we can't change our lifestyle and avoid it. We have to go outside. We have to breathe the air. We have to experience the climate. And this is why it is such a serious problem that we need to address.
The difference between a contrail and a chemtrail would be that contrails are just obvious condensation. It's like when you put a cold glass of water outside in the heat and you see that condensation forming. It's very unique humidity and temperature circumstances that exist at very particular altitudes. And so when a plane is flying through a very specific area, of course, it can create a condensation trail.
There are people who think that contrails are not a thing. Contrails are a very real thing. Water vapor is real. You will see contrails. Some are a little bit more persistent based on weather conditions. I know this from my profession. You have relative humidity, dew points, different things.
Let's say it's like a really cold, brisk day outside, and you look up. The airplane looks small, and then you've got this white trail coming out the back. As the plane moves forward, the length of that line doesn't change, right? It follows the airplane and it dissipates back here because it's melting. So where it comes out of the airplane, it's the coldest and it's freezing. And as the plane goes forward, the ice crystals melt, right? So you can literally see it following the airplane, because if you think about it, all the airplanes are doing the same thing and they're in the same airspace. So if the conditions are right to produce that, then all of them would do it. A chemtrail is when it's a beautiful day outside and I go out to feed my chickens and I go in for 10 minutes and I come out and I see 4 big lines that make 2 perfect X's. And then within an hour, it spreads out, it creates a blanket. And a lot of times, because I think they shoot some kind of frequency or something at it, you can see like a perfect line in the sky.
We're going to see a lot of contrails when it's more cold outside. And then you have the next day, you know, there's spraying, there's chemtrails all throughout the sky. There's a big blanket of gray, you know, fake clouds. The chemtrails turning into clouds, I mean, does that not make one question what's going on in our skies?
And that line will remain the entire course of this flight. And then you'll watch how it fans out and spreads. And it'll spread a significant portion in the sky. That's what I'm talking about when we talk about geoengineering or chemtrails. Chemtrails that spread out and never dissipate.
And the ones that last the longest is when you whip out my little handheld telescope in the house there, whip that out, look at it. Oh, shit, that's an odd jet right there. It's got an exhaust port that goes straight out the side underneath the wing. Not underneath the wing like an engine, but where the cargo door goes right out the cargo door, just in front of it on the fuselage of the plane. That's going to piss me off. I don't want some creep ramming chemicals down my throat without my permission.
Now that people are waking up to these chemtrails and they're noticing they're spraying at nighttime when everyone's asleep. Just the other day, literally, I look out across the moon, I see a chemtrail plane going across the moon, spraying. And then shortly after I go to lock everything up, the whole sky is covered in a blanket of gray fog. Because they're spraying at nighttime. Because people are waking up to this. People are realizing, hey, that's not normal. That looks different. Hey, why is it every time they spray, people are getting sick?
I mean, it's been in our faces for a long, long time. The problem is most people, they just, oh, do I have to go to work tomorrow? Does this mean I don't have to go to work? If not, they just, oh, okay.
The thing with these contaminants that people forget, like radiation, in the form that it's being dispersed, by the time that it's getting down to you, you're not seeing it with your naked eye. Some people are noticing different powders. I know that rain bringing it down, people have done swipe samples on it.
And of course, it's very important when you set out a water jug, make it as far from the trees as possible so you don't get any wind blow. And if you do start getting wind blow, I bring them in because I don't want anything coming in off the trees that could possibly contaminate my rain sample. I want a good, clean rain sample where the only dirt in it is somebody's chemistry.
I wanted to find out what was in the flares that they were using. What sorts of chemicals and metals were they using? Because my rain results, there was aluminum, a lot of aluminum, by the way, a little bit of strontium, barium, a lot of magnesium, copper, zinc, and then titanium.
Geoengineering is a very real multi-program weather modification catastrophe that is not just happening in the United States, it is happening all around the world. This is one issue that we need to unite on collectively. Put aside all other beliefs and say, do you want to breathe in toxicants that impact your stomach, your brain function, and your ability to breathe and live a long life? Because the increase in neurodegenerative issues like Alzheimer's and dementia is at an all-time rise. So if you're part of this group that wants to remove food dye, you're part of this group that wants fluoride out of the water, or you just want to drink water that's not contaminated by this giant company, that doesn't pay the taxes you want them to pay. Right, left, middle, upside down. Go look at the data, look at the documents, and ask yourself, even if you still don't believe it, why can't you get on board to get behind banning it?
What if we're breathing in metal and then they turned on these towers and they put out microwaves? Have you ever put in foil in a microwave? We're breathing this shit in. If you're not aware, it is in your body.
Right now, our bodies are detoxifying. Our bodies are doing this all the time, and we know this because things come out of our body that are waste products, right? And if the waste products stay in our body, they are toxic, so that's what all detoxification is. So when we urinate, when we defecate, when we sweat, when we exhale, when we blow our nose, when we sneeze, when we cough, all of those, our body is getting rid of toxins and waste products. And actually, there are many studies that look at, for example, what's in the sweat. We can find BPA in our sweat, as well as other plasticizing chemicals and heavy metals. So sweating is a very good way to help our body purge heavy metals. Now, there are, of course, other materials that can help your body accomplish this task. What I've found from the scientific studies is really effective to help your body get rid of toxic metals are chelating substances. There are a bunch of different natural plants and minerals that have this property. And with respect to the plants, they actually have this property to detox the soil in their environment. There are many plants that serve this function and can rehabilitate the soil so that other plants can go better in that area. So two of those that are very good for metal chelation, and they have high silica components, that's the particular substance that chelates the metals, are cilantro and horsetail. And then there are also natural mineral chelating substances like zeolite and bentonite clay. Those are excellent at binding metals. So if we look at, for example, there are animal studies for cilantro, and they make a tincture of it, also with zeolite. And what they do is basically they use, mice or rats. They poison them with heavy metals like lead, for example. There are several studies looking at lead. And then they give them, in those cilantro studies, they give them cilantro, and then they have the control group, and then the other studies, zeolite and the control group. And what they find is, in the animals that don't get cilantro or zeolite, they find the toxic metal in their organs, and they find organ damage. In the animals they do give those substances, no metals and no damage to the organs. There are several studies for each of these natural chelating substances that show they're highly effective and also extremely safe. In fact, with respect to zeolite, they did a study trying to give a lethal dose to the animals, and they gave huge amounts. And not only did none of the animals die, none of them even got a whiff of sickness. So it's an extremely safe substance and can be very, very effective. In fact, zeolite is even used for industrial spills as a way to clean up very, very toxic things, and it can do the same function in your body.
So I think right now we're in the stage of where smoking was safe, considered by doctors and medical professionals. I think we're in the same position with chemtrails. There's awareness, they're talking about it. The information is out there. I just think we're in the same stage of when smoking where, hey, it's okay to smoke. You can even smoke when you're pregnant. Doctor's #1 recommended cigarette are Camels. I think we're in that stage of life with chemtrails. People are waking up to it. They're aware of it. No one wants to breathe in chemicals. No one wants to, wake up groggy and in a bad mood. We want to see the sun. We want to see blue skies. We want to have healthy crops. We want to have healthy drinking water, breathable air. They can be shown the information. They can be told point blank what they're doing, what's going on. At the end of the day, they still have to go to work. They still have to get up bright and early, sit in traffic, earn that paycheck to pay their bills.
We really need to come together to address this because there are powerful forces that are promoting this. There have been some attempts, but it's so easy to be defeated, right? Like states that are trying to prohibit it by law. The only problem is that the states don't control the airspace.
House Bill 2063 passed in 2024 prohibits weather modification, geoengineering, aerosol dispersion of chemicals, chemical compounds into the atmosphere. Carried a small fine with Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, but we knew we had to do more. And so this year we took step 2 with that with House Bill 1112. I termed it as a pathway to prosecution. And our governor in Tennessee worked hard against it. He worked against it in the Senate. He and his team did. I think this is a hot issue in Tennessee. I think it's a hot issue across the United States. I was so flattered, I guess is the word, taken, that something that a country boy in East Tennessee started with this prohibition. I think there are now 32 states that have taken an attempt at this. This has become a huge issue. Florida just passed a bill, and they took some things that we done, and we talked with folks in Florida, and they've done something better than what we did in Tennessee. And it's going to require the collective states to act that way to force a really sluggish federal government to move. Unfortunately, politicians in Tennessee, like the ones that didn't vote for this in the Senate, that offered lame excuses like, well, we don't want TDEC to have that responsibility. And I would say to that young senator, read your law and read the bill. Quit taking the easy way out and quit allowing a lobbyist or the governor's office to tell you how to vote, and listen to your constituents. Because I can assure you that the constituents in the state of Tennessee want us to do something about this. These weak people like Bill Lee need to wake up, and they need to listen to their people. We're trying to take care of those folks that are traveling up and down this road, those kids that will be on Watts Bar Lake here behind me this summer. And it's as if these politicians either don't care or somebody's telling them what to think. Some other high-paid lobbyist who has a financial interest in controlling Tennesseans and Americans, and they cave to that. Shame on them. Get out of politics if you don't have the guts to stand up, get in this fight. I'm convinced this is one of the preeminent fights of our generation. Stop this evil.
When states ban weather modification, depending on the population density of an area, the state really doesn't have jurisdiction above 400 to 1,000 feet. Above that is federal airspace. And this is a federal program. I do think it's important that states ban it, though, because it brings it into the news and it makes it, a big deal and raises awareness, makes people understand this is a real thing. And again, if people want to know if this is a real thing, states have bills to ban it.
I think that all the states that are taking forth effort to ban it gets the conversation going. But I need to hear something come from the federal government. Because of how fast states have discussed weather modification, have implemented bills that are still going through the channel to ban this, again, it's raising awareness. But there are things that we did throughout history that we were able to ban and move away from once we realized the health and environmental issues. Spraying DDT on children, putting asbestos in our homes as a fire retardant. There are things that we have engineered out of society once we realize the harm. So this is why we have to focus on not politicizing who, why. Even if you don't think it's happening, would you get behind stopping it? Because once you understand the hazards of ingesting, inhaling, and the contact hazard and the synergistic toxicity of it coming from you in so many which ways, let's have the discussion.
We have to take some serious action to solve this problem. And the first step, which I think is the goal of this film, is to increase the awareness. Because if your average citizen knew the truth of what's going on and what they're being exposed to without their consent, they would be outraged and they would take action.
I was living at the time in Fresno, and I had just had my son. So I had gone from a 9 to 5, you're running around and working all day and never really observing the world around you. And it was after having my son, and suddenly I was a stay-at-home homemaker, and we were on the lawn all day or outside exploring. And that was the first time I was able to observe a clear sky in the morning with then grid patterns that would stretch out throughout the day. And then they would expand, and by 4 or 5 p.m., there was no sunshine. It was just muted out. And I observed this for a while, and then I finally was so disturbed by it, I brought it up while grocery shopping, talked to a cashier, and I said, do you notice the lines in the sky? Do you notice how it just spreads out? And she said, yeah, those are chemtrails. That was my very first experience ever observing and then also hearing the term chemtrails. So that was the beginning of this journey for me. I went home and searched for the term. I tried to bring it up on social media. People shot me down like I was crazy. So that was my first introduction, but I didn't really get passionate or active with regard to exposing it until many years later. After experiencing what I did during 2020 and seeing how we were being lied to, fear-mongered, abused essentially, and I knew how bad the lies were at that time. That was the first time I really opened myself up to the possibility that this whole chemtrail theory might actually have some weight. I began tracking aircraft out of curiosity for many reasons, but I was self-taught on an app called Flight Radar 24 because I was curious about who was overhead. I use Flight Radar 24 to identify the aircraft. I take the registration number from Flight Radar, and then I go to the FAA's website, and you can look up the unique registration number. And there, they'll tell you all the details of the aircraft, and they'll tell you the registered owner of the aircraft. That is priceless. And from there, you have to try to figure out, is that company online? Because there's no phone numbers on the FAA registration, just the name of the company and address. I didn't get very outspoken about this until a few years after Convid, I call it. And it was actually when I moved to the mountains where I am today. And I had decided to get away from the city. I was ready to grow my own food, or at least attempt. I'd not had a real garden before. And I wanted to raise my own chickens and because I knew my food was more and more bioengineered. I knew that we were in an environment where they were trying to poison us, I felt. And so I then was out in the garden building for the first time planter boxes. We had to put a fence around for the deer. And of course, I'm outside long hours. And in these skies out here, is where I was realizing they're still here. We are being pelted. My son is being stolen. I became so frustrated that I decided I'm done not talking about it, because I was heavily ostracized while talking about it, you know, attempting to talk about it. And I decided at this point, you know, I've had enough.
I think with all conspiracies, there are stages that we go through. First is deny it. Second is to attack it. Third is to accept it. First, they deny it. They just don't even entertain it at all. They just won't bring it up. They won't talk about it. You'll never hear about it. It'll just be a thing that people like us talk about. It'll never be acknowledged. Once people start waking up a little bit to it, I think that's when they attack it. That's the stage 2, right? Is they start attacking it. And they try to make people look stupid for thinking that way, right? They'll turn all your friends against you. They'll do the whole tinfoil hat thing, call you names, all that shit, right? And then when that doesn't work, and enough people wake up, now they have to accept it. Meaning, okay, now we have to tell the truth, but we'll just make up another lie with it. So we'll say it's just to block the sun. People are so dumb, they'll believe anything. So we'll just make up a new lie, and then we'll just tell that lie. I mean, it took them this long to figure this out, so we'll just tell another lie, right? So we'll just tell them, okay, well, we're doing it, but it's only for this reason. And most people are like, oh, okay.
If you think about it, it's harming people on all kinds of different levels. Mentally, physically, spiritually. I want to come outside and enjoy the sunshine. You know, I don't want to have a cloudy, murky day. I want to see the sun. Psychologically, what that does, someone wakes up, they've been spraying all night, they come out, they're getting ready for the day, it's gloomy, there's no sun. You know, during the summer, everyone's happy, excited, they're by the pool, they're at the beach, everyone's in a good mood, it's summertime. Nothing more pisses me off than I look up and I see a chemtrail going across, flying across the sun, blocking out my view, blocking out the sun. It pisses me off.
I never learned about that in school. I specifically remember, because it was interesting to me, I remember learning about clouds. And I remember having to draw them. Like I had to go home, that was my homework. Like cumulonimbus cloud and, you know, like what a thundercloud was or a cirrus cloud, right? Now, every once in a while, we'll get normal clouds. I can tell what a normal cloud looks like because, I mean, I've looked at them my entire life, but it seems like maybe the last decade or so, it's like that's all I see now. You know what I mean? Like it's very rare that I'll look up and think it's a normal sky. And when I do, I take it all in, you know what I mean? Because it literally brings me to tears almost sometimes because I miss the blue sky. The sky now, like I'm looking out my window in the back and it's like, there's always this white hazy layer over it where it's not blue. I remember laying on my dark green grass when I was a kid. And it felt good, you know, laying there as a kid and just, I remember looking up at the sky all the time and it was just like blue, like a crayon blue. I don't see that anymore.
I don't remember the last time I really saw a true royal blue sky like I used to see when I was a kid. I remember what that was like to see that. But, you know, unfortunately, that was only when I was 6 or 7 I started seeing that. And the kids now have no idea what a real sky looks like.
If you start to read about geoengineering and weather modification and the history, you find yourself looking up to the sky a little bit more. The more I looked into this, the more convinced I became that there's some evil taking place, to be honest with you. And evil from 2 perspectives, really. First, from the perspective of what's moral and right. To put chemicals in the atmosphere that are going to find themselves into our breathing air, into our water, into our soil, our food supply is unacceptable. From a constitutional perspective, it's unacceptable and it's immoral and it's illegal from a constitutional perspective because We, the people, have not consented to being test subjects.
I found that most people that I would talk to about it felt like there was something going on, but they didn't ever want to talk about it publicly because they didn't want to be ostracized or called the crazy person. So I volunteered to be the crazy person and to start putting it on the table. And I really wanted other people in California to start documenting and observing right along with me. People who were curious about the skies to come together in our state to look for patterns, to document, to take pictures, and to see if we could notice any trends in the state. So I continued tracking flights, and with this amazing group of people, I learned about the NOAA Library, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And they have a weather modification library where you can find all of the non-federal weather modification projects. So these are the smaller operations, the snowpack enhancement, the precipitation enhancement. Come to find out, there was a over 30-year-old project happening right over my head. And it was being funded, paid for by 2 irrigation districts to the southwest of us, the Modesto and the Turlock Irrigation District, also known as TID. They call it Turlock Irrigation District. And I then learned the company that they were paying was called Weather Modification International, or LLC, or Inc. They use all 3.
Weather Modification Incorporated, which is a company that services most of the planet. They actually hold most of the contracts in the NOAA Library. The NOAA Library has every disclosed contract in the country, and there are thousands active contracts.
I realized that all of my documenting, all of the times I thought there was something going on in the sky, there it was confirmed.
The vast majority of weather modification, I believe, is conducted by military. But we have thousands of contracts with private companies like Weather Modification Incorporated. Anyway, if you go to their website, they offer loan programs for planes and they have job opportunities. And my favorite job opportunity is when they're requesting pilots. One of the qualifications is that they have the capability to be extremely discreet. They must have the ability to maintain secrecy and be discreet. That's in the open listing.
What really convinced me that this is absolutely going on was when I first found a report from the National Institutes of Occupational Safety and Health where they were actually reviewing a company that does this, MK Ballistics, in 2004. What I found was if I go onto a search engine on the internet and put in the search term cloud seeding companies, it returns pages and pages of small companies with aircraft that disperse various cloud seeding chemicals. And their websites, if you look at them, they're actually, boasting about this, like that they do it better than other companies and such. And that's when I knew, for sure that this is a factual phenomenon. Now, if we go back to that particular report from NIOSH about MK Ballistics, what they're doing is manufacturing these cloud flares, which are essentially like pyrotechnic devices like fireworks. And in the report, it outlined the specific ingredients that they use, and silver iodide was one. And they also divulged using strontium nitrate, which is a very important fact to note. It does have some toxicity, so it's very close to calcium on the periodic table, so it tends to interchange with calcium in the bone and get stored in the bone. And if there's exposure during child development, it can lead to abnormalities of the musculoskeletal system.
When children and pregnant women are exposed to metals, they absorb them like sponges. They're trying to take in metals for their bones. When children are growing and babies are developing, the materials don't just poof out of nowhere. They come from somewhere. Just like a plant grows out of the soil. A plant gets everything they need from their environment. They don't just poof out of existence. So when we're growing and, we're pregnant and we're growing someone else, our bodies are sucking in items from our food, from our air, from our skin, from everything in order to build. And unfortunately, what happens when you have metal contamination is that those metals confuse the body. Like, for instance, we shouldn't be exposed to this level of aluminum, this level of barium, or even cesium-137. I've seen reports that we're not supposed to be exposed to that. So what happens is a lot of these metals can get into the brain, screw up the whole blood-brain barrier, mess with your immunity, mess with your gut. I mean, the amount of damage that's done to just the ovaries before they even turn into a baby, or the sperm. I mean, every piece of life is being affected by these toxins. You can't mess with biology on a cellular level before it's even grown into an adult. You can't mess with that. We might not even have any clue as to what humanity is capable of, because the limits to what we're capable of have been brought down so low for the last several generations. I wonder what humanity was like 1,000 years ago.
In adults, it can be a contributing and possibly even a causal factor for osteoporosis. However, if we have certain salts of strontium, like strontium nitrate, which is in the cloud seed flares, according to that government report, that is a much, much more toxic substance. And what that substance does is that it reacts with the hemoglobin, the oxygenated hemoglobin in your body, and that's in your red blood cells, which carries the oxygen from your lungs to your organs. It reacts with that and results in two things. One is it creates hydrogen peroxide, which is a highly reactive chemical that would cause oxidative damage. And the second thing is even more problematic, that it oxidizes or reduces the iron to methemoglobin, and a +3 state of iron, and gives the condition methemoglobinemia, which is a rare condition only really caused by poisoning with various substances. And in that condition, the blood cannot bind oxygen. You can tell based on the acute toxicity that it probably would not be good. I definitely encourage people to use their mind in combination with what they're doing. It's very, very difficult to know exactly what the consequences of these exposures are.
You can go and find out that there are patents on all of this stuff. Why? Why would there be a patent if somebody wasn't going to pursue that? You don't just make patents to make patents. You make patents to protect it so you can hide the technology from people and control it.
In 1891, they began producing rainfall. In the early 1900s, they started producing artificial fog. It's revelation of method. They're telling us what they're doing. It's one of the laws of the universe. Unfortunately, the general public aren't privy to the laws of the universe, but one of the laws of the universe is revelation method. They have to tell you what they're doing before they do it, okay? It's kind of like, here's a poison apple. I'm gonna sell you this poison apple. It's poison, you eat it, it's off me. The blood's off my hands. However, if I sell you a poison apple and don't tell you it's poison, that's on me. Your blood is on my hands. So it's basic revelation of method, lesser magic. So these patents they're putting out there, they're telling us what they're doing. And, silence is consent. They know no one's going to go to .org, .gov website, these certain government websites and check for patents. They know they're not going to do it. They're distracted with news and sports and government and religion and all the other viruses in this world.
There are an enormous amount of patents that talk about every single aspect of all of this. The problem is there are patents for things that don't even exist yet. There are patents for things that are so out of this world that no one would ever think that they're real. There are patents for literally every part of this and things that you probably don't ever want to read because they're so terrifying.
When you see that these concepts have been patented, you have to ask, why would we monetize this? What type of evil brings that on? I think it's that same evil that wants us to live in a perpetual state of war so that the defense contractors can get wealthy. And it's that same evil that would do whatever they're trying to do to our atmosphere to hold you and I yielded under their thumb so they can extract our authority. Our Tennessee Constitution says all power rests in the people.
I think people are just, they're not lazy, they're conditioned to not ask questions. Why would there be a patent for subliminal acoustic manipulation of the nervous system? I think it's bigger than what we even know. And I think that if we really knew, like if somebody was to come out and say, okay, here's what we're doing to you all, and here's all the reasons why, I think it's a lot.
I know that there are plenty of patents that have been approved for years on these different issues of weather modification. I'm not saying that every single patent that has been approved or even proposed, is being utilized, but I think many are. And it's the race to who has the better idea. It's there, it's openly admitted. Now ask yourself, why are people still denying it? Why did people obtain the patents? And some of these patents are 20 plus years old. So what has happened since then?
They don't mind at all bringing a storm in to be able to depopulate an area so that they can do something else there. And you and I, the citizen, bears that cost. I ask our governor, I ask our TDEC to look at that because there's law on the books, Title 58-2-116A in the Tennessee Code, authorizes the governor and his agencies to investigate those natural disaster things. Unwilling to do it, completely unwilling to do it.
When they throw that stuff out there, I don't understand why people today would think that they couldn't produce a hurricane.
This is military equipment. It is military equipment that's being used to manipulate weather. The NextRad towers can be used in multiple ways. One of the most simple things you can do with an NextRad tower is produce heat, because it emits microwave radiation and it can heat layers of the atmosphere. And if you were to have these speckled radar systems all over the United States, what you could do is activate the towers on either side of where you don't want the storm to go. Make them emit so much microwave radiation that the atmosphere heats up. You create a high pressure zone. And then if the storm exists and you keep pumping it with aerosols, and also you can zap it to kind of make it more powerful, pull more moisture out of the air. When you have these NextRad towers producing heat in an area where there wouldn't have been that much heat, for those of you who don't know, wind is created when two temperatures collide. It's that simple. So when you create heat in this area and heat in this area, and this area was just like normal, the storm is gonna move along that line. It's gonna move along that line. The last three identical storms that have floated through the center of the United States from around Texas up into New England, that has had the identical qualities every single time. Every single one of them has had that rippled radar affecting the source of the storm and then going around the more severe areas. I see storms all the time. I don't see that around normal storms, but I've been seeing it around these. Literally, it looked like a frequency was being emitted from these towers that was causing a ripple in the radar and ripples in clouds. For anyone who even questions this, you can go to a very simple website. You can go to the NOAA library.
NOAA has an article on their own website, a 70-year anniversary of seeding their first hurricane. And there are these massive planes that can fly into the weather, into the swirling weather. And what they had done 70 years ago was they had seeded a hurricane, and the hurricane picked up speed and diverted and actually took out a nice chunk of Georgia. And it cost a lot of money and people were very upset. They discussed it. They had to let the public outcry die down, and finally they had to do things on the down low, right? So they continued with their experiments. Well, what I saw recently as I'm tracking the aircraft in the sky is the hurricanes that were coming into Florida. There was a NOAA aircraft, the same type. It was a Lockheed Orion, flew in to the body of the hurricane and did its moves. Then you had a Gulf Stream that belonged to NOAA above the storm at like 45,000 feet. I am of the opinion now that these 3-letter, 4-letter agencies that are raking in billions upon billions of dollars of taxpayer money are not really looking out for our best interests. I think that they're all working to serve a purpose, because what we see now today, the manufactured fires that are burning out of control, and then suddenly precious land that belonged to, generations of landowners and families gone, now up for grabs by the BlackRocks and the Vanguards of the world. You have the flooding that destroys people's homes,
causing excessive floods, causing severe weather, causing excessive drought. Yeah, I mean, weather manipulation, people think, oh, it's too big to get control of. Not really. Not really. Because all you really need is heat generation. And actually, just with heat generation alone, you can do so much. The towers emit a strange pattern before unusual weather events on a very consistent basis.
If you change something here, it might affect something in the future. If you're messing with Mother Nature here, this place that normally gets the rain and relies on the runoff to fill this river or stream, you're totally messing with that. And I think we're starting to see impacts of it. Weather is unpredictable. It truly is. But we are messing with weather, and we're getting more tornadoes, more hurricanes in areas you haven't before.
Every hurricane, every devastating storm, all of those murders, they're using weather as a weapon, period.
I do know people that I talked to years ago who told me they actually designed the software for the HAARP technology. HAARP is very real. Our government is very secret about what it's used for. When people try to show up to inquire or see if they have tours, they're immediately pushed away.
What logically makes sense why they would be beaming high-powered pulses of energy up into the sky? What good could come from that? It's not natural. That's not the natural rhythm of the earth and the system that we reside in. It can't be good. I mean, just that alone, not knowing anything about HAARP, never even hearing about HAARP, knowing that they're blasting frequencies up into the sky, that doesn't raise any flags? That doesn't make you think? Scratch your head? What's going on? You're not curious? Just look at the record tornadoes in Arkansas. I mean, look at all the flooding and North Carolina, all these storms, hurricanes, like wildfires, all these quote unquote natural disasters that are just popping up left and right.
If the technology was available in the 1960s to do that, and that we have HAARP and all of these different mechanisms that are able to manipulate the atmosphere if we put the right chemicals and metals and compounds into the atmosphere.
HAARP is scary as fuck. I have literally seen them up in Alaska where no one can go. It's all energy and frequency. That's the secret, right? Is they're hiding from us that everything is energy. And with this HAARP technology, I believe, and again, it goes back to the patent, they can use it to manipulate people's minds.
HAARP, which is stationed in Alaska, big system. You can't have HAARP systems all over the country. You also don't need them. HAARP is very powerful. It can affect a vast majority of the planet, but it makes it far easier to control unique areas if you have sort of essentially local antennas all over an area that you can work with. So the idea is NexRad is sort of an extension arm of HAARP. We can utilize these towers all over the country to emit very particular frequencies. HAARP, like I said, is in Alaska. So if it wants to emit a frequency that goes all the way to Florida, it's going to be crossing California and Tennessee and everything all the way over to Florida. But if you have certain towers that it can communicate with, then you have a much more customized weather modification system. And we have a lot of NexRad towers.
When you have these nanoparticulate metals, can they be controlled? Can they vibrate? Can they be steered? And that seems very plausible when you look at some of the very unpredictable, very out of the norm hurricanes that just recently occurred. If you just look up our government's own documents, a lot of people who still don't believe this, at some point are going to have to wake up and join us.
When you start to look at the materials in the research that we have barium and strontium and aluminum and nanoparticles, I think some of these technically incompetent politicians don't understand what a nanoparticle is. They can't grasp that. Something that's 1/77th the thickness of a human hair, I have a hard time with that, but it's a real thing. We can't visibly see that. For those who are knowingly selling these materials to these geoengineering outfits, they need to likewise suffer the consequences. And the bill that we offered, House Bill 1112, does that. It assigns the authority, prosecutorial authority, to a district attorney. We have a district attorney here in this judicial district, and to the Attorney General for the state of Tennessee. And that when they leverage what the state already, through the executive department, the governor's office has the authority under Title 58-2-116 to investigate these phenomena, then when you pull that information together, you start to develop a case. And it's easily trackable.
We can hold these mind controllers, these governments, we can hold their feet to the fire. Just like Catherine, Miss Catherine, with her brave soul, going up to these pilots after they just sprayed her, going up to them and asking, what the f are you doing? We see you. What are you doing?
I dropped my son off at a sleepover, and I came home and I heard the aircraft over my house. And I looked at my app and I realized, okay, he's already been out there for almost 3 hours. I'm gonna miss him because he's about an hour away from me. He flies out of the Modesto airport. So I thought, well, okay, I missed him again, because I had known that I wanted to go confront him at some point, just to meet him and say, what are you doing? You're right over my house. And so then I went to bed, and it was around 10 o'clock, I heard him come back. And he was over my house again for the second time that night. And I shot up out of bed, and I called my friend, and she didn't answer. And so I called up another friend, and I said, let's go to the airport. And so he picked me up around 11 p.m. We drove about an hour to get to the airport, and then, and had to wait for him to do his seating figure eights over my house. And then as he landed, then I had to find a way to get to him. And this airport was a different airport. So I didn't know what was going to happen, because it was now roughly 1 o'clock in the morning. Everything's dark, everything's locked up. So I start walking along the windows and the businesses, and I'm just looking for, is there anyone here? Is there any light on anywhere? And I happened to see one of the line guys. The door was locked, and of course I said, hi! And the guy looked at me, and he came and pushed the door open, and I said, I'm here for, and I named the tail number, the registration number of the aircraft. I said, I'm here for the crew of da-da-da-da-da. And he's like, oh, okay. And I said, can I use your bathroom? And he said, yeah. So I went on in and used the bathroom, texted my friend. I said, I made it inside. And I filmed a little bit of the plane from the inside this dark building. So I was in the darkened waiting room. The pilots were probably confused. It's now, 1:30 in the morning or so. And my friend came over to the door as they were locked. He finally got over and started filming from the outside. And they went and got the crew. I didn't have a script. I didn't know what I was going to say. There were two men. They came in. They sounded like they were Canadian. Thank you.
Good. What can I do?
Good to see you. I'm here. You're Tim, right?
No.
Oh, no.
No. I don't know a Tim.
Jody?
No, don't know. Well, I know a Jody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jody Fisher?
No, yeah, I know Jody Fisher.
You do? Okay, good.
Yeah.
And then who are you?
I'm one of the other captains.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And I said, well, are you Jody? Because Jody Fisher is I believe it's the flight director now of Weather Modification International. I've tried multiple times to reach Jody Fisher and to say, what are you doing? What's in your flares? I wanted to know, are they using the titanium dioxide nanoparticles? And if so, then I know that they have violated the environmental impact report. Are you free now?
No, I gotta reflare.
Okay, so I have paperwork for you that I want to give to you. So hang tight, I'll go get it. But then we've been trying to reach Jody and you for a long time.
Okay.
And we are tired of you dumping heavy metals all over our county.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not the one to talk to about that.
No, but you are. But you're the one that's doing it. So I've been taking rain samples. I have over 20 samples. And every time you fly, we get high amounts of aluminum, barium, strontium, titanium, magnesium. So I want to know, are you aware of what you're doing? I know you think it's like to increase water supply for Turlock and Modesto, but it's not really happening.
Yeah, you can talk to.
I've tried. I've called them, and they're not calling me back. So we're now getting really involved, and now we're going to bring something legal against your company.
Okay, well, you can talk to them about that for
I know,
sure.
but
So
I want you to know though, like, we are real people underneath what you're doing. You spray right over our houses. We hear you. We know you. We see you. We're watching your planes and your patterns, okay?
yeah,
It's twice
I get
today
that.
now. You did 2 flights, 2
Yeah,
3-hour flights.
it's public knowledge, yeah.
Well, it's not really though. That's the problem. So you have not properly notified our board of supervisors about this. Hi, are you the other pilot?
Yes.
Hi, what's your name?
Khaled.
Khaled?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
hi.
not-
Hi.
It's not we have people at home base that you can talk to about that stuff.
But they've not called back. So now we're getting to the point where we're getting our supervisors involved. So the supervisors of our county needs to be notified. They've not been notified. You've been doing this for 30 years. I know it's a long time. You guys are like, it's cool, it's easy. We're talking about all of the metals and the flares that you're using. So aluminum and zinc propel the silver iodide. You're spraying right over us all the time. What you're spraying is not good for the environment, and it's not good for the people, because there's an early onset dementia, there's Alzheimer's, things are starting to happen to people's health. And I really do believe there's a linkage to what we're breathing in the environment every day when you guys spray us in November through April. It's your yearly contract. I'm aware of that too. So I just wanted to meet the pilots and say, you know, where's Jody? I've called Jody, I've talked, I think Leslie was the other one, Leslie Fisher,
Yeah,
Lisa.
probably his wife.
Okay,
But
yeah,
yeah, no, that's their responsibility. That's not our
I
responsibility.
understand, yeah. But the money that you're receiving to do this is coming from, is it taxpayers that are paying for this?
That's not my department.
I kept my cool, but he wanted to sort of blow me off. But at the very least, I thought, he can see I'm a real person. I'm here in the middle of the night, meeting him inside the building that the public doesn't have access to. I'm serious, man. I have a family. I have chickens. I have a garden that I'm trying to grow. And you've been doing this for decades. Are you aware of the cumulative impacts of the metals you're dumping over our heads? I want you to know it's upsetting for me. I want you to be aware we have copious amounts of aluminum, magnesium. There's been some barium, strontium, but titanium's weird. Is titanium also in your flares? Okay, that's unique for me. So I want you to know that there are health impacts and impacts to the soil and the plant life and all of those things. And when you do this, my whole community is watching. We don't know what to do.
Yeah, I understand your opinion.
It's not an opinion,
So
though.
I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. You can take your concerns.
Are you the chief pilot?
No, I'm not the chief pilot.
What is your name again?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
No, it doesn't.
I'd like to know.
No, it doesn't, because you're
It
going
matters.
to go try to smear that all over the place.
No, but I want to know. Like,
No,
are you
that's
chief
none of
pilot?
It's none of your business.
It is my business because you're over my head dumping shit over our families
We're
and
not
our
doing
houses.
anything illegal, so.
It's not illegal yet. But now we haven't had air district hearing boards for years now, and people have not been paying attention, but people are starting to pay attention because they do care about their health and the health of our food and the health of our population. I want you to know that you, whether you know it or not or want to admit it or not, are contributing to dumping heavy metals on our soils and in our air. We're breathing it, we're drinking it, we're eating it.
I'm not saying it doesn't matter.
Every time you go up there, we are watching, and it's heartbreaking and it's distressing, and I don't know how to get a hold of Jody Fisher. So I want you both to say, Jody, you got to address this.
We're not making it rain, period.
Okay, so what are you doing then?
We make it snow
Okay,
over top of the
but
mountain.
you've done this over us though, so Groveland, Coulterville, Sonora, right? And then the air is moving a certain direction, I get it, but it's like landing on us under the guise of public health. It's bullshit. I'm sick of it. So I've come out here tonight when I'd rather be sleeping. And because I wanted to just find out, do the pilots know, have you been doing this for a while?
Yep.
So when you're up there, just know that someone's down there looking up going, what's going on?
Yeah, I know. I don't ever think that there's not people watching this.
Yeah. Okay. People do care.
Yeah.
We care deep.
I know that.
I regret that I did not get a picture of his face. And I also did not get his name. He refused to give me his name. But that's okay, because what I had was the audio of the interaction. And I, of course, like I've done in the past, I share my interactions. I share my observations, my experiences. I had no idea that it would receive so much attention. When I actually got home, it was about 4 a.m. and my adrenaline was pumping, and I shared the audio. I listened to the audio on the way home with my friend, and he was like, "You were so calm." And I was like, "I know." And he admitted it. And he's like, he's really saying it, because it's so hard to get people to believe it's really happening. You have to hear it from the horse's mouth. And I think that's why it was so impactful, is that people finally realized, oh, there are real people in these planes hitting the flare buttons and the ejectable flares. They have burn-in-place flares, ejectable flares. Poof, there's all the aluminum over this concentrated area.
It's going into our water supply, it's going into our nose, it's going into our mouth, it's settling on our skin. It's slowly ruining your brain. It's slowly ruining your body. And it's making me sick and killing me too. I've got cancer, and I think a lot of it is to blame on the chemical companies, and that might be a background factor. It's no good for any of us. It'll kill us. The thing that upsets me the most is the guys in the corporation, the CEOs and the corporate bosses. They're breathing the same stuff and haven't figured that out yet. And they say everything's fine. How can they do this to me and to us? And wow, it's bad for everybody. And sometimes I wonder if the lawmakers and the politicians and the CEOs aren't poisoning themselves and leading themselves by the nose into destruction.
Look up, listen. This is not left or right. This is, we have a right to clean water and air. And the same people that used to be the environmental tree huggers that didn't want large companies improperly disposing drainage into waterways. Your own government's doing it, and you're demonizing the people that have seen it, uncovered it, and risked their lives talking about it.
My name is Justin Harvey, and I am a health freedom advocate from Orlando, Florida. As of late, been speaking a lot about fluoride, but if it's got to do with our health or our freedom, I'm usually involved. And this time we're in Texas talking about geoengineering. And while there are many state bills being proposed across the country, we have to step up locally. We can't just depend on the state and the feds to take care of this issue for us. You've got to get out there, educate your city council members, and encourage them to do the right thing and protect their local community. Don't depend on state and federal governments to get this done for you. That is not what's going to get it done. What's going to get it done is real people going into their local communities and raising awareness and making noise. That's what it's going to take, and that's what we're here to do tonight. I come here all the way today to bring awareness to an issue of weather modification, also known as geoengineering, which I'm sure some of you have heard of by now. This is something that affects all of us as it consists of the air we breathe. These programs consist of spraying tons of patented aerosol pollutants into our skies without public consent. This includes aluminum, barium, strontium, and more. And while there are plenty of people that say these programs have been going on for decades and they do have some decent receipts, I don't even really think you need to take it there. You can simply point to these article headlines that I've brought here today. And they start with, "Is it time to consider dimming the sun? Harvard's Solar Geoengineering Research Program." Forbes article, "Bill Gates' venture aims to spray dust into the atmosphere to block the sun." Fox News, the Biden admin was considering blocking the sun to prevent climate change. CBS News, controversial spraying method aims to curb global warming. And last but not least, the CIA director, former, said, "A personal program that has gained my attention is one of stratospheric aerosol injections," which is a fancy term for the chemtrail word. You can no longer call something a conspiracy theory, I don't believe, when Harvard, Bill Gates, the White House admin, former, and a CIA director are all calling for these programs to start. This demonstrates that there are people in power that have every intention to carry them out, and we should put preventative measures in place to make sure that they don't. And people say, well, Justin, this has never happened. In 1955 in St. Louis, they sprayed chemicals over an impoverished St. Louis community just to see what the effects would be. Now, 5 years ago, this speech was laughed at and I was tossed out of here, and it was a loony bin kind of talk, but we've currently got 30 states proposed bills to ban weather modification, including Texas. And the EPA's announced they're investigating it as well. This is no longer controversial. And I'm grateful the issue is mainstream, but we can't depend on the state and the federal government to take care of this for us, which is why I think we should all do our part locally to put measures in place. This is exactly why I would call on the city of Benbrook to basically pass a resolution outlawing this practice locally. While this may be out of your jurisdiction and federal airspace is higher, you can start the conversation, you can get attention on the issue, you can educate your public, and you can help report these instances to the EPA. Just because it could be out of your jurisdiction doesn't mean there aren't ways for us to fight back. You have a platform and you can use it to educate the public. If enough local communities and state governments shine a light on this issue, I'm confident that we can stop the practice, whoever's carrying it out. I encourage everyone to start testing your soil, looking at these things. Mike Adams is already looking at our soil samples in Florida. The experts say this stuff accumulates in our body over time, and I don't want to be breathing microscopic bits of aluminum, my family, who knows what else. And we all know what happens when metal is in a microwave. So I really hope they don't crank up those radiation towers that have been put on every street corner. These are valid and concerning questions. It should be a common sense issue to fight for clean air in your community. I truly hope that we can get something passed here locally to address this issue. Thank you so much for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And I'll be happy to send you the articles that I mentioned as well.
Thank you very much for your presentation and for raising awareness on such an important topic.
Thank you so much. This is your opportunity to go out and do this in your city, in your county, because I'm just one guy. I had no public speaking experience. I was terrified of it. But when you go out there and you get a little handle on it, you just prepare your 2 to 3 minutes, you go in there and educate them. And then guess what? They're like, oh man, 3 people came to the city council meeting talking about this. Maybe we should have a meeting about it. Oh wow, 2 cities nearby passed something. Oh wow, the state next door. It's just a domino effect. So once one person goes out and starts talking like I did about the fluoride issue, people will come with you and you will build your small little army of people that can go in and get change made.
I think that we've hit a point of acceleration of awareness of this, that we have the inertia, that it's moving. And it's moving at a much faster rate than what it was some years ago.
There's so much information that is coming out right in front of your eyes, and it's desensitizing people. Because when it's openly admitted, 100% by a federal government and in the mainstream media, I think that's when people will start asking, well, is this safe? If you're paying attention, the UK just passed and admitted they're going to dim the sun. If you would have asked me in 2010 if it would be so openly discussed now, I would have never believed you or myself.
The number one weapon, true weapon, that the government has against the people is censorship. And we've seen this excessively for a long time. The reason why censorship is the greatest weapon is because unification is their greatest enemy. If we all have information that makes us angry about something, we're all going to do something about it.
If you think of the word government, govern means control, ment means mind. All government means is control the mind. Do we need a bunch of bureaucrats and politicians controlling our minds? Are we not capable of thinking for ourselves? Do we really even need a federal government? A federal mind control program that steals our money and sends it overseas? We needed government and representatives back before we had cell phones. When hey, Tanner, get on your horse, you represent us, ride out to Washington and tell them what we want. We needed government and representatives, and now in the age of technology, we don't need fucking government. It's a corporation. And in my opinion, the corporation needs to be dissolved and all the power go to the states. And that way we have no more tyranny.
We need to prosecute those people that are doing it. I don't think we fully understand what has happened to us collectively in just allowing ourselves to breathe continually these chemicals, whether it's aluminum or silver iodide that we use in the cloud seeding. That has an impact on our bodies. And we regulate industry every day to make sure that we don't emit hazardous materials into the atmosphere. Yet we're turning a blind eye while people purposefully do that. There's a time to fight. Don't come after my rights. Don't come after my guns. Don't come after my free speech. There are things worth fighting for. And those people that are spraying our skies today and trying to usurp control over you and me and us, they need to be punished for it.
We're in a war. This is a war against me, you, our children, our grandchildren, and generations to come. This is war raged upon us. This is warfare. A revolution is where a group of men stand in one spot and say, enough is enough. You're not spraying us anymore. And the only reason why we haven't is because most people are docile and the other people aren't aware of it. Now, with this film, they're aware of it. So do we stand in one spot and say enough is enough? And if they don't listen, we take it to the next step?
This is something I just feel we the people, regardless of politics, are going to have to sit down and say, this is happening. And it doesn't make you a crazy conspiracy theorist because you're acknowledging it.
Send letters to your local representatives, send letters to the administration, raise your voice, because as soon as everyone starts bringing it up, which is already happening, thankfully, it's either going to have to stop or they're going to have to address it head on. It's nice to see the potential of humanity rising up again. And I think that the warrior inside is not going to put up with it anymore. I think we're going to stop it.
I want the world to know its purpose and remember what they came here for.
Something in me tells me that we were born here in this time now to eradicate this evil. I believe that God created humans in this form that we're in right now, because God created everything, right? He created all these other entities because it all comes from the source. There's only one energy, and it's all energy. I believe that humanity has the divine spark that is the only thing that came from source that could eradicate all of this evil. And that's why they hate us so much. That's why they will poison us. Because if we were to wake up all at one time, which I believe we're gonna get to that point because we're seeing it literally happen right now.
Open our eyes, ask questions, stay curious, look for the safety data sheets, really look into it. We all have to look out for each other. It really is, I feel, all of us against a powerful few. And if we understood and could own our power, because we have a lot of power, when you stand in your truth and you speak from the heart and you say, I do not consent, I didn't give you permission, I want you to stop. There's power in that.
I just want to thank everyone that's a part of exposing this, from the filmmakers to the other professionals, activists, or just subject matter experts that have lended their voice amongst a lot of hatred and bastardization. A lot of times when you present people with ideas, they call you crazy, but I know at the end of the day, they go home and they look it up. So I just want to thank everyone else that has come forward to talk about this, because we have a lot of problems in this country, but this is a world issue.
Please do something. Try. Be actively compassionate just like Jesus did. Please do that. Please. Okay, I've said all I need to say.
What if these people just keep doing this and introducing more toxins to just shorten our lifespan more? Because again, if humanity woke up as a collective, right, which is the reason why we are doing this, if we all came together and we stopped believing in this reality they've created where we need their money and their electricity and their water, I mean, we can get all this stuff from the earth, right? But we believe in this reality they've created for us. If we all ascended and connected, it would all, like the Matrix, would literally crumble.
If we care about the future for our children and our own health and future generations, then we can no longer afford to be spending most of our time entertaining ourselves with frivolous baloney. You know, it's the bread and circuses of today. My hope is that people really start just looking around and asking questions. Question everything. Because, again, the lies have been told for a very long time. And there's more at play here.
We are not frightened. We are enlightened. Yeah, we know what you're doing. The storm you made is brewing. Yeah, we will fight it. For we are united. But when we come together, we will clear the skies forever. Can't you see our day is finally come? We know what you're doing and what you've done. No more deception. You will learn your lesson. We will be victorious. Justice will be glorious. Can't you see our day has finally come? We know what you're doing and what you've done. We are not frightened. We are enlightened. Yeah, we know what you're doing. The storm you made is brewing.